Hello, and welcome to the Hamumu Halloween Home Horror Hoedown,
the podcast where we watch 31 horror movies throughout the hallowed month of October.
Ranging from the critically acclaimed to film school projects gone gruesomely awry.
And we take them all way too seriously.
I'm your host, Mike Hummel.
And I'm your host, Sully Hummel.
Now warning, we use a ghoulish number of spoilers, so watch the movies first.
Second warning, we don't know anything about anything, so don't take us seriously while we take these movies seriously. Today, we're talking about the movie Anaconda from 1997, which to me feels like we're going to, time. This is when time began in the 90s, as far as I'm concerned.
Time in the 90s began in 1997?
Well, I mean, the 90s as a whole. But particularly, 96, I graduated high school in 96, okay? So 96 is life begins when you finish high school and move out on your own and whatnot. And so 97 to me is this is the real world.
97 was totally the real world. Yeehaw!
Anyway, I don't like to think about how long ago 1997 was, because it also feels like looking at this movie and seeing Danny Trejo, who I didn't recognize.
Yes.
He was so young. And this is a man who literally, every time I've seen him, I have thought, this man is very old.
Yeah. He's a very old looking guy. And he was this was his heyday, the 90s. And why didn't he look like this otherwise? Why was he 18 years old in this movie and 47 in all the other movies in the 90s?
I think being lost in the jungle and being eaten by a giant snake, took its toll on him. We also had Owen Wilson, who actually looks exactly the same as he used to look.
I think he doesn't age.
I'm pretty sure he's drinking the blood of Canadian children or something.
Yeah.
And then we had Jennifer Lopez,
J-Lo,
who again was unrecognizable to me, but only because apparently I didn't clue into the existence of J-Lo until after she had moved on from her girl next door look.
Yeah, that was a thing. And Ice Cube looking like Ice Cube.
Yeah. Weird thing. I said, we watched this movie and then I was scrolling through my phone on, I don't know, Facebook or Twitter
Have you been
or something.
texting you again?
No, but there was some PSA of some sort. I mean, not an actual PSA, but he had made some Instagram video or something saying something. I didn't actually watch it, but I was just yo, that's Ice Cube. I just saw him in a movie when he was much younger than this.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
He was.
Anyway, so this movie is the story of a documentary crew going out into the jungle, trying to make first contact with some tribe of indigenous people. I don't remember what the name of the tribe was.
It was a shh.
Because they were not important to the story. They were purely there as this is why we're going out here. This is the thing we're motivated by.
It was the MacGuffin tribe.
Yeah, something like that. And then they run into a really terrible guy from Paraguay, and
yeah, definitely from Paraguay,
or whatever country Inigo Montoya comes from.
He said he was from Paraguay,
and he leads them astray, and they end up battling a giant anaconda,
and another one,
and a lot of baby ones. Well, yeah. There were just a lot of snakes.
I don't know if they battled them; they just kind of looked at them. The babies. They were there they are.
There they are. Well, the one bit the dude on the finger.
Yeah, there was one baby
it was
that
a
got
very aggressive baby snake.
Yeah, so this movie is such a mystery to me, this movie.
How so?
How it exists. And, I mean, this was a big budget. This is a big movie starring starring a lot of big stars from the day.
Were they big stars yet? I couldn't get a sense
so.
for that.
I mean, 97, J-Lo had to be a big star.
Was she cast in this movie because she was J-Lo and Ice Cube was cast because he was Ice Cube? Or were they cast in this movie and then people were like, look, she's pretty, maybe she can sing?
I feel like 97 is after all that. I mean, I know Ice Cube was famous long before 97.
Yes, and I know that for a fact because while he was on the boat, he was listening to a tape deck that was playing Ice Cube.
Which is the weirdest idea for a movie to ever do.
I mean, he wasn't Ice Cube in the
I
movie.
know,
It was
but
a
that's
character
so
who
strange.
happened to really like the music of Ice Cube.
It's like, this guy's voice is just great.
Yeah, so...
I mean, okay, so it's just all these super famous people that are like just household names that I remember. Eric Stoltz was the redhead guy that ate a wasp.
Okay.
And the Paraguayan John Voight, who is
what else has he done?
He's won multiple Academy Awards, I
because
believe.
he looked super familiar, but also, like, that name means nothing to me, and I couldn't place
he's
him.
He's Angelina Jolie's dad.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
I don't know what he's done. He does a lot of movies, not like this, but, like, not as good as what the other people are doing. But he's also done, I don't know, things.
Sure. He has one of those faces.
He has a face, all right, especially in this movie.
Yeah.
I made some notes about that face.
Okay, tell me, what notes did you write down about his face?
My note was, did he have a double stroke? Because the ends of his mouth, both ends, can't go up. What is that?
And he can't open his eyes.
Yeah.
Why? And one of them opens a little more than the other, but why can't he open his eyes?
Because he's being tough, I think. But I don't understand.
Except for the rare times when he opened them way too wide. I'm like, why don't... It was very strange. His face was always making this, like, weird piratey look.
Yeah, I think that might have been what he was going for. I don't know.
And then he had... He claimed to be from Paraguay, and he had this accent, but it was exactly the accent that Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride has.
Yeah.
Was Inigo Montoya from Paraguay?
I have no idea. I can't answer that. I'm assuming that this accent was not an accurate Paraguayan accent.
It was something else, though.
So, I mean, like, the question is, why in 1997 was there a big budget, star-studded cast, terrible monster movie? I mean, I don't think it's the only one. Like, Deep Blue Sea came out sometime around this time, and it was kind of the same idea, but it wasn't as big. I mean, like, these are big stars, and they spent a lot of money to do it. And why did they do this? Why? Why did they do it?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. And there were things about this movie that made me think they were trying to do something really, like, they thought they were doing something special. The music in particular, like the theme song for this movie, especially over the beginning credits, I actually thought I had an idea of what this movie was. And then I start seeing the credits and hearing the theme song, and I'm like, whoa, is this movie, like, way more serious and impactful and, like, meaningful than I thought?
And by the end you discovered it was.
I did not discover that.
Okay. Yeah.
No. I did discover that they didn't write a whole theme song. They just wrote a couple phrases of a theme song and then played it to death.
Yeah.
Also, they didn't actually so much write it as just lift it whole cloth out of the song Memories from Cats.
That's the song that I think of when I think of snakes.
Right? And the jungle.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. No, initially I was like, oh, are they is this movie, like, trying to compete with the Titanic? Like, this is some intense, dramatic music happening. But no. No, this was not a Titanic movie. When did Titanic come out?
Sometime near 97, I don't know.
All right, keep talking. I'm going to look it up. What else was it about this movie that felt like it was trying to be something that it wasn't? Oh, dude, Titanic came out in 1997. They were competing with Titanic.
I mean, were they?
They were like, oh, you have Leonardo DiCaprio. We have Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. It was a bold attempt to win Oscars that went somewhere else. Because they didn't win any Oscars, I'm guessing. I haven't looked that up, but I'm just guessing.
I'd have to look at what other movies came out in 1997, but the place where they really lost all hope of competing with anything was the snake. The CGI.
The CGI.
What was happening there?
One of the goofs I saw listed on IMDb is that at one point somebody who's being wrapped up by the snake throws their arms up through the snake. That's how much effort they put into the snake.
Well, you know why they did that? Because in getting caught in the snake, the people would get the snake would spiral around them up, and they were just standing on a big lazy Susan and spinning them around to get that footage.
They had a rope they yanked.
Right?
That was something. But actually, in addition to the CGI snake, which was very obvious when it was used, there were two incredibly huge animatronic snakes, one 1,500 pounds and one 4,000 pounds. Just full-size animatronic snakes. And they said at one point there was a scene where the animatronics busted on one of the snakes, and so it just started wiggling out of control, and they used that in the movie.
Because it was being snake-like.
It was snaky.
Yeah. Okay. I hated everything about the CGI of this movie.
The CGI was
every
terrible.
Piece of it.
They didn't understand. I mean, I guess the technology probably wasn't there, but they didn't understand how to match the lighting of the scene. So, the fake snake was just not in the world that they were in.
No, not at all. It was I see 12-year-olds doing better, photoshopping now.
Well, yeah. Technology has moved on.
It has, but come on. 1997. Come on.
I have a fun fact for 1997 for you.
Okay.
This snake cost $100,000 a second to do the CGI. That's an expensive snake.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, that's what they were charged, I guess.
What studio executive was like, you know what? This movie's a winner.
I know.
It's worth it.
That is the point of my whole mystery to this movie.
Okay.
So, and all these stars, before they were in this movie, they were sent the script, and they were like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. This is the vehicle for me. This is what's going to rocket me to stardom right here. I mean, to more to super stardom from my existing current stardom.
Yeah.
What is happening with this movie?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, though. I'm looking at a list of popular movies from 1997. And I'm I'm looking for the ones where I can remember there being some kind of CGI, or can I imagine there being some kind of CGI. Volcano. Gonna guess the CGI in that wasn't great.
I don't know what it looked like.
Dante's Peak.
Obviously both of those movies came out together.
Titanic.
Uh-huh.
Then Devil's Advocate. And I'm gonna tell you, Devil's Advocate was one of my, that was a movie I really liked. I was like, oh, I am down for this creepy devil lawyer scary story. Absolutely. But I also remember there was some weird imagery CGI stuff in that one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not seeing a lot with a bunch. Oh, Cube.
Yeah, I don't think there were a lot of CGI in that. It was a lot of practical effects.
Fifth Element.
They did fancy things in that movie. Probably also a lot of practical effects, though.
See, so maybe that's what it is this just was really early on in the whole CGI thing, and it was maybe too soon. Too soon. I feel like they maybe could have... I personally feel like they maybe could have done a better job if they had just stuck with their two animatronic snakes.
Maybe. One other fun fact I remember is that in the trailer, apparently, I didn't watch it, but there's a scene, and maybe this is only the early version of the trailer, where one of the people, Owen Wilson, I think, gets eaten by a snake, and he's yanked away, and they didn't have the CGI snake, so it's just him getting yanked away with nothing. And it's in the trailer.
And they hope that they're it'll go by fast enough. Nobody's actually looking.
And that's what they should have done with the movie.
Nobody's watching this. They should have had it go by faster.
Well, yes. But I mean, they should have just skipped the CGI snake and just had people get yanked off screen. You're like, okay, snake got him.
The thing is, there is some truth to that. Nobody's watching that closely. Most people won't notice. I did not notice the thing that you noticed that you made us rewind and watch again.
That was a good thing.
Once I saw it, I was like, I don't know how I failed to see this the first time, but they're on a boat and it comes in and it gets stranded on some land at one point, and then they fight the snake and a tree falls on them.
Which saves them.
Yeah, and then their boat is fine, and so then their boat sails away. And as it sails away, it's actually footage of them driving up on land being played in reverse, which would probably have been fine.
I think so. There's only one problem.
If there hadn't been a waterfall in the background.
Yeah, a waterfall going up.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It was something else. But again, I missed it the first time. There was one moment of CGI that I absolutely loved. It was terrible.
Well, sure.
Absolutely terrible. Probably one of the worst moments, CGI-wise, but I still loved it.
Uh-huh.
It was after one of the characters, I want to say the Owen Wilson character.
Oh, yes, it was Owen
had
Wilson.
Been eaten by the snake.
I know what you mean.
Swallowed down like anacondas do.
Sure.
And then the camera goes underwater and we're in the water and we're watching the snake wriggle by. And it has just swallowed Owen Wilson, obviously, so it is Owen Wilson shaped in the center.
Which is fine if it was just like a, lump of body like a real snake has.
Yeah.
But his face is in it.
Yeah. It made me think of, the book The Little Prince, where he's talking about a snake having eaten an elephant, and it's like a snake with an elephant-shaped center. Like, it was like that. It was like a snake, it was the head and the tail with an Owen Wilson-shaped center. Yeah, it was...
And it was going, wow. That's my Owen Wilson.
It's very good.
Is it?
Very good.
Is it? I have a question for you about this movie.
Okay.
This is about, like, the subtle details of the plot and the complexities, because obviously this is a complicated movie.
I mean, right up there with the Titanic, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot to understand. So the problem I had was, at one point, Eric Stoltz, the characters don't have names for me, they're just actor names.
The scientist guy, the redheaded guy.
Yes.
Okay.
The guy who would try to spit out facts to turn on women, he's like, ice cubes are really just frozen water. Only they were a little more scientific than that. But
I mean, a little.
A little. He goes scuba diving, and while he's underwater, he ends up swallowing a gigantic wasp.
He's underwater. He's not just underwater.
Yeah,
he's
there's
underwater
another important step.
With scuba gear, including like the respirator piece.
Covering his mouth.
In his mouth, he's breathing air through the scuba tank.
Then, later, John Voight feels the need to bring up when his misdeeds are being rattled off. He's like, don't forget about the wasp.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if he's being sarcastic, saying, haha, like I made everything bad happen, or if he's explaining this impossible scene by saying, yeah, I placed a wasp inside the, pipes for the scuba tank so that when he breathed, he would suck it in.
And it wasn't just, for our dear listeners who might be thinking, I don't know, maybe a wasp, and they're imagining scuba tank.
They're imagining a real life wasp.
People, you have to imagine a 2020 wasp. Like the murder hornet sized wasp. Like, it filled his entire mouth.
Sure
Where did it come from?
That's my theory, is that he's saying he did it. It was a sabotage. Because his mouth was covered. And first of all, why? Why did you think that was the clever scheme? Because who's going to believe there was a wasp biting him underwater? Answer, everyone on the boat was like, okay,
obviously
a wasp got him. What?
This was also the kind of movie, though, where after he went into shock, because he's apparently allergic to murder wasps stinging him in the mouth, wimp, they did a quick, throw a splash of whatever handy alcohol you have on his neck and cut his neck open with a knife, tracheotomy, and then he just, then he disappears for the next act of the movie, and he doesn't disappear, they put him in a bed, and they're trying to get to a hospital, and he's just resting in the bed, healing apparently, because by the end of the second act, he's able to get up and save the day.
Yeah, he was recuperating.
He's literally the hero. They would have all died if he hadn't gotten up.
He's not the hero of the movie. He has a heroic moment, which is something I will come back to, because I feel that he was there when they needed him, came in and did one thing, which saved
He came
some lives.
in, yes. But, at great risk to himself because he attacked the Paraguayan. And the Paraguayan, jammed his thumb into his neck and made it all bleed and sore and stuff again. So then he's out for the count for the rest of the next act, too. He literally was there for 10 minutes of action once they actually started having things happening on the boat.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we probably mentioned Danny Trejo more than anyone else. He was in the movie for 30 to 40 seconds at the beginning.
Yeah. He didn't last long.
But he got high billing.
Well, he was the prologue of the movie, of the book, right?
Right, the novelization of Anaconda.
The novelization of the movie Anaconda based on the book Anaconda.
Yes.
So I feel like you have put your finger right on my biggest issue with this movie. No, not his neck. Oh. not his trachea hole. Tracheotomy hole. No, it's that it's simultaneously a weirdly convoluted plot while also not really being a plot of any kind. Yeah,
it was something I was kind of appreciating towards the end. I was like, it's kind of cool that it's not just a snake coming in and killing everybody. There's the bad guy, and people are things are happening kind of organically. They're in this situation, so this person falls off the boat. And, it doesn't feel as scripted as most movies. Not that it feels like an improv movie, but the sequence of events doesn't feel like something somebody planned out, which I guess is not a plus for a movie. But it feels like real life.
It feels less formulaic, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
You never know what's going to happen next because things are kind of just happening as they happen.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's great, but it was interesting.
There's a school of thought in the writing world that says, if you get stuck or you're not sure what to do next,
have a giant snake come out.
Well, do something dramatic, have someone pull a gun or, a fire, an explosion or a fire breaks out or whatever. And it sort of felt like that's how this movie was written. They were going along and then
literally listed everything that happened in the movie right there.
But things would start to slow down a little bit and the writers would be like, I don't know, let's blow this thing up. I don't know,
Yeah.
Or we need the boat to stop. Ran out of fuel, or ran into there's a random wall across the river for no reason at all.
Okay, there is. That's a plot section. But, there's a scene before that really I spent more time thinking about than I should have. There's an aerial shot of them motoring down the river in their boat.
Yes.
And it's a totally normal shot. It should have been great. It should have just been their boat is puttering down the middle of the river, and here they go. Mm-hmm. The problem with the shot is 30 feet in front of their boat in that shot is an island going across the entire river. There's no way they could move any further.
Which by definition means it wasn't actually an island.
Well, no. No, but because
I'm
sure it had room on the side, but very little.
I saw the same thing, and it definitely was not enough room for their big boat to get through.
It was why did they use this shot? Why didn't they film it 20 minutes earlier when that was out of view?
Yeah. And then, I was like, they had just gotten through the wall. I'm like, oh no, now there's another thing in their path.
It means something.
I was expecting it to be part of something, and then we get back down where, an interior shot of the boat, and I was like, okay, they're going to talk about this thing.
They're stuck again.
No mention of it.
No,
it didn't,
they just kept going.
Yeah, it just didn't
exist. They just picked the boat up and put it back down on the other side. That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
But there was a wall on the river they had to blow up. There was a lot going on.
Which I assume had something to do with the fact that they were entering into the territory of this tribe.
That's what I thought.
I think, and there was this whole undercurrent of we're in their territory now. We're seeing their totems with the snakes on it. There's lots and lots of snakes here. This tribe that worships snakes is around us.
Yeah, and I felt like the wall was kind of not a warning exactly, but stop people from coming in so they don't get eaten by giant snakes.
Possibly,
protective measure.
Yeah. But you would think, and I'm not, I don't have a problem with any of that. It's just that was happening and it wasn't intersecting with the story in any way. They started the movie and they're like, we're going to go look for this tribe. And then they have an entire movie where they don't mention the tribe again. Mm-hmm. And then at the end...
They showed up.
And it was one of those, you know, I was complaining, I think, in our previous podcast about how abruptly, I was complaining about how abruptly Village of the Damned ended, where it was just like, boom, end, roll credits.
Yeah.
It was the same thing here. Like, there's all this buildup, and then they're just like, oh, we finally killed this, I almost just said spider. They finally kill the snake, and then it's like, oh, there's that tribe of people we've been looking for. Roll credits. Like,
yeah,
wait,
we're
what?
Going to be really upset with us at this point.
Right?
Well, and we should mention that, you know, we talked about the Wasp. John Voight, the Paraguayan, had this secret plan where he made the Wasp thing happen, I guess, so that they would have to backtrack through the fast way, which meant blowing up that wall, going into the territory, which doesn't even make sense because they wanted to find those people, so he could have been like, the people are down here and let's go that way.
Yeah. I mean, you say the fast way, and I don't know that it was the fast way.
They kept saying it cuts 50 miles.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe it would have been the fast way if they hadn't had to stop every 4 seconds to fight a giant snake. But... Or
if they just would go. Like, most of the time they were like, yeah, let's go to bed. Don't worry about the guy dying down in the bed there.
Oh, yes. They find the abandoned boat that is left, you know, it's the boat that Danny Trejo died on in the prologue.
Yeah.
They find that boat, and, you know, of course, the Paraguayan wants to get on the boat because he knows that there's stuff there that he knows who that guy was. He was part of their, you know, snake hunting, we're going to get rich.
Yeah, famous snake hunters.
Yeah. So he had a reason for getting on that boat, and he's like, we should go look for fuel. That's important to us. Even though, like, that guy has already tried to swallow a murder hornet. He has a hole in his throat. Like, they are supposed to be on their way to the hospital.
Yeah.
And they stop to look for fuel. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that was the theory. They kept saying they needed fuel, but then they just kept going every time they failed to find it.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I can understand, you know, you need to have fuel or you're not going to get where you're going. That makes sense. They get on the boat. Mateo disappears.
And they're okay with that.
And they're like, well, we'll just stay here for the night. If he's not back by morning, we'll leave. Dude still has a hole in his throat.
Uh-huh.
And we're just like, gonna bed down for the night. No big deal.
Yeah, the whole thing lacked some of the urgency it kind of needed.
Yes, but then they were weirdly urgent in places where I was like, calm down. Calm down. I felt like the characters in this movie were very one-dimensional.
Well...
Like, they were just dots on the page.
Yeah, they
weren't even two-dimensional. They weren't even lines. They were just dots. Like, this guy is arrogant and melodramatic, and that was literally all there was to him. And this guy is a dummy, and that's all there was to him. And this guy is evil and acts like a pirate. That's all there is to him.
Way into the movie, I'm like, they are taking too much time to kill these people without spending that time developing these people. Like, there's 2 ways to go with a horror movie. You know, you could spend your time developing the characters, make us care, or just start killing them. Mm-hmm. But they just took forever to kill these characters that had no dimension.
Yeah. The only 2 that had any kind of depth to them at all were the J-Lo character. And I think that was her character. Like, you know, this guy's a dummy, this guy's evil, this guy's arrogant. She's the smart one. Like, that was her thing. So she was a little more interesting because she could think outside of, you know, her box was a little bit bigger, but she was still very boxed in. And then there was the Ice Cube character.
Yeah, he came up with some ideas.
He did. And, gonna say, I was expecting the very stereotypical thing where the black guy's the first one to die. Like, it was set up when they went to the boat, the abandoned boat that they found.
Yeah.
He went with the Paraguayan, and he's like alone in the water with his camera. The music was swelling. We were getting that like monster cam shot.
Yeah, there's a monster cam sneaking up on him.
And I was like, oh man, why is it always like this? Then turns out he's one of 2, 3 people who are left at the end.
Yeah, which was the big thing I noticed in this movie was 1997. We have a movie in which a Latina and a black guy are the 2 heroes of the movie. And there's also the white guy who survives too, but he's useless. He's murder hornet bait.
He was the dude who laid on the bunk the whole time.
Yeah, but I mean, that was surprising and pretty cool.
Yeah.
So this was a great movie.
I mean, I will give it that. It stepped outside the tropes of the time.
It was surprising. I did keep expecting Ice Cube to die. Even one time he got wrapped up by the snake and still managed to get away.
Yeah, there were many times where I was like, oh,
at least
here he
twice,
goes.
Actually.
But no, he saved the day multiple times. And then he and J-Lo's character were, when they were having that final fight in the mill, and they were fighting the snake and Cerrone at the same time.
Yeah.
That was a big showdown. They did a good job.
Yeah. See? Not so bad, is it?
Sure.
We have been talking a very long time about a very bad movie.
Yeah. Ratings.
Well, I think we have been talking too long about a bad movie, so I should speed it right along.
All right. Give us your ratings.
Rate this one. The low end of the scale is so tricky.
It is.
But I'm going to go with 1.5 empty barrels out of 5.
Those empty barrels that they were going to use to fuel their way back to
The thing is,
the hospital?
They would have looked fine. Like an empty barrel looks like a full barrel, but they bumped into them.
Yeah, those barrels had nothing in them. They didn't even sound like they had anything in them.
It's just like not doing it right.
You know, the continuity person for this movie, like, dude, an upside down waterfall looks different than a waterfall that's falling correctly. An empty barrel sounds different than a barrel that's full of oil. These are basic things. Okay, so you said 1.5.
I did.
Empty barrels. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of monster movies in general. I don't get much out of the, like, racing through the jungle, running through the woods at night, whatever, like, the things that go along with monster movies.
Mm-hmm.
They always have, well, it's funny, they usually have these, like, very preachy plots about, you know, the environment.
Yeah.
This was completely missing from this one. There was nothing. Like
Amazon movie, and they didn't care.
No, they did not care about the environment at all. In fact, it was the exact opposite. The underlying story was, let's go ruin an indigenous tribe that hasn't had contact with the outside world.
Yeah.
So I just, like, this genre of movie just doesn't really do it for me. The times when it does is when it gets so bad, like Frogs,
Yeah.
that it's highly entertaining. This did not make that mark.
No, but it was trying.
See, here's the thing. If it had been trying, it would have gotten there, I think. If they had noticed what they were doing and been like, oh, okay, if we just punch this up a little bit, it would have been hilarious.
Yeah, I could see them kind of taking it seriously for some reason.
Like a few more, like if the we're just gonna use this shot backwards, I don't care if the waterfall goes up. Like if they had done a few more of those things and it had been obvious that they were doing it on purpose, that's
cool.
funny.
That would be great. I would like that.
But they weren't. Like I feel like they were trying to make something really important. And that, more importantly, and sadly, I feel like they sort of thought they did. And that's always like, ooh, it's awkward. You know, I'm watching and I'm just like, oh, how do you tell someone their baby is ugly?
Yeah.
So, I am going to give this movie, I'm hesitating to do this because I feel like I hate to use the extremes too much, but I am going to give this movie 1 empty barrel of fuel out of 5.
I almost had a heart attack thinking you were giving this a 0.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Oh, no.
That would be a travesty.
This movie was bad. It wasn't straight up offensive. Like, to get a 0, you have to not just disappoint me, you have to offend me to my core.
Yeah.
This didn't do that either. I don't care enough about this movie to give it a 0.
Wow. That's pretty good. Yeah. Well, that's it. That is our review of Anaconda.
Look out for that snake!
No, there's no snake. It's CGI. Bye, everybody. Me.
Are you ready now?